Hi everyone, it's Kristen from The Creative Space. I need to paint a sample for a paint party I have coming up, and so I thought I'd go live and paint it live so you could see how to paint a glass bottle. Now, I'm not going to be painting this sunflower design because I already have a sample for the sunflower design, but I do want to paint a sample with pumpkins on it. So I've painted these wine glasses before with these pumpkins, and I've done these at a paint night, and they're a lot of fun. So I wanted to give my painters some options. And I have this one already done. I have a hydrangea one already done, but I thought I'd do a pumpkin one so that they had a couple options. So I'm gonna paint this live for you so you can watch how to do it and maybe do it yourself at home if you have the supplies, okay? So I'm gonna turn my camera around, and don't forget to say hello if you're watching or if you're watching the replay, because and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer questions, so make sure that you ask them in the comments, and I probably won't see them while I'm painting, but I definitely will see them after, okay? So let me do a quick little turnaround. I've got a lot going on. Over there in my kitchen, I'm actually dyeing some yarn, and yep, I just can't not do things. It's a problem. So let's see. I'm gonna bring this down so you can see what I'm doing when I get started. All right, so glass bottles, I got them on Amazon. Whenever you're painting on glass, you want to make sure you clean it with an alcohol pad. So you could just take a little cotton swab or like a cotton round or something, and use just regular rubbing alcohol, or if you happen to have little alcohol pads, you can clean your bottle. Now, I'm cleaning the side that I'm painting. The rest of it doesn't really matter, and I'm not going to paint anything on the neck. So I won't, that's what I'll be using to hold. Once you clean the surface, you don't want to touch it again. And then I have some various glass paint. So anything that says multi-surface on it is good. Sometimes I get some that say glass paint or enamel glass paint. As long as it says glass paint or multi-surface, you're good. And you also know, because at the top, on the top of the lid, there's usually little icons that tell you that you could paint this on glass. So the other thing about painting on glass is, well, there's a couple of things, but one thing that's important to know is that you're painting on a surface that's not porous. So the paint takes a little bit to dry. So you don't want to put the paint on really thick. You might need a second coat, but you want to put the first coat on thin so that it dries a little faster, and then you can go and put your second coat on. You can see on this one here that there are areas where the paint is a little thinner and the paint is a little thicker. For our purposes, that actually works out really well because it creates a little dimension. So that is something that I kind of like. Okay, so I put my paint in these little plastic containers because you don't need a lot of paint when you're painting on glass. So putting it onto a paper plate like I normally do isn't useful because you tend to spread it around too much and then you're just gonna waste it. So I put it in these little plastic containers that I get at the dollar store. And then I like to have some brushes that I save just for glass paint. They last a while longer that way if you just kind of designate them for glass paint. Yeah, they just stay nicer. Okay, so I'm gonna just kind of wing it. I'm using my pumpkin glass as inspiration, and I'm thinking I'm gonna do a big pumpkin down here and a medium pumpkin over here and a small pumpkin over here, kind of 3 pumpkins. And then I'm just gonna kind of attach them with a vine just for visual purposes. So I put two orange paints in my container. I know I'm gonna like this one better. This one looks a little too, I don't know. It just doesn't look very bright. It's a little too muted. Muted's not the right word. It's just, it looks like sherbet to me. I don't really love it. So I put that one in there first, and then I thought, you know what? I don't think I'm gonna like that one. So I put the other one in there. It's not bad. Well, you know what? I'm gonna try it. Sorry, I'm being wishy-washy. Okay, so down here, I'm gonna start my big pumpkin. Now, I like to start with a middle section, and then I'm gonna fill it in, and then I'm gonna make a side section. So it kind of looks like an ear. You do want your middle section to be a little bigger than the side section though. I'm gonna make that come down a bit more. And then I'm gonna do one over here. I'm trying not to, I'm only touching the neck of the bottle right now so that I don't get the oils from my hands onto the glass that I've already cleaned. So that is the beginning of a pumpkin. It's just the beginning. Step one. We're going to be adding some more layers of orange and also some other colors in there, yellow and white and a little bit of brown. You have to use a light touch, and I'm letting my brush strokes be part of the design. So I want to make sure that my brush strokes, especially on the edges of things, like this edge of this section here, follows the contour of the shape I'm trying to make. Okay, so this orange isn't too bad, but I do think I'm going to end up using the other orange on top of this. All right, so I'm going to kind of let that be for a little bit, and I'll work on the other pumpkins. So that's kind of just a starting point here. I'll do all my first coats with this orange that I don't really love. Okay, so I could stack them on top of each other, but I want to kind of give them a little staggering. So I'm going to put one over here, and I'm going to try to make it a little smaller, and I'm even going to angle it a little bit so it's not straight up like the other one. Okay, so that's my middle section. And then my side section. And then, whoops, my side section over here. Gonna grab a little bit more paint. Today has been such a weird day. We thought it was gonna rain. We changed some plans we had, and then the sun came out. It's been such a weird day, weather-wise, I guess. Okay. Now you could do these different colors. If you wanted to, you could do, I like aqua for pumpkins. You could do it like a cream color, but I'm just gonna stick with orange for this design. So I'm using a really light touch when I'm going in here and adding a little bit more. Because if you push down too hard, you're gonna end up taking a bunch away. So I'm using a really light touch as I brush a little extra paint on here, and I'm also paying attention to what my brush strokes look like. Okay, so I like that. I like the shape of that one. All right, so now I'm gonna make another one up here, and I'm gonna angle it the other way. Okay, and I'm gonna make it a little smaller. Now I have to be careful not to put my hand in this pumpkin down here. So I'm gonna come right here and I'm gonna make the middle section and then the side section. Ooh, that one's kind of big. And then the side section over here. Now, if you start watching this and you don't have time to watch the whole thing, but you want to see how it ends, this is going to be available for the replay. So hopefully, if you're watching me, you'll stay the whole time. But if not, that is okay. You'll be able to watch it again. All right, let me see if I like this. Yeah, I kind of like the way that looks. It's a little more angled than I originally thought it was going to be, but I like it. Okay, so that is the beginning of my design. I've got my 3 pumpkins, and I'm visualizing in my head, once I make those stems here, I'm going to connect the design with some vines just to give it some movement and to fill in some of this empty space over here. All right, so I'm going to wipe my brush on a piece of paper towel that I have over here, and I'm just going to grab some of the other orange, just because I think I'm going to like this other orange better. So I'm going to come back down here. Let's see how it goes. Remember, I'm winging it this time. So give me a little grace on this. I'm kind of making it up as I go. See, this orange is brighter. I'm just going to go in and just really lightly add a little bit of this orange in here. You can kind of see if I push down too hard, it takes away some of the first coat that's not quite dry yet. So I'm being really careful about that. But I really just want to add a second coat with this brighter orange. And I'm okay leaving some areas of that other orange showing through. When you have different values, it helps to make a sense of depth to your shape or your design. So I don't mind that some of that other color is showing a little bit. And I don't mind that there's some areas that are thicker and thinner with the paint. That helps too. I'm going to go through and I'm going to add a little of this orange to each pumpkin, and then I'm going to work on the stems to let this dry a little bit, and I'll come back to this when I want to add some more. So that's looking good so far. Okay. Now I'm going to grab some orange and bring it up here. So you can see a little better, I think, that the direction of the brush strokes make a big difference. So it's been a little bit since I've done a live, and it's been a little bit since I've had a paint night because I kind of took some time off for this summer. June and July were really busy with my art camps, which went really well. I had a blast with those little kiddos. And then August kind of took most of the month off to do things, to finish up art camps and then do things with my family. And my husband and I went away for a little bit. But now I am ready to get back into it. School started. I've got 2 paint nights this week. I've got a couple the following week. The one that I'm doing these wine bottles at is coming up on the 12th. So I've got a lot of good stuff for everybody. I can't wait to paint the ceramic jack-o'-lanterns. That's coming up in October. So much going on. So can't wait to get back into it. The studio, for those of you that have been following along with the studio progress, it's coming along, slow but sure. The windows just got installed this week. The siding is supposed to get delivered at the end of this week coming up. So hopefully once things start looking like really different, I'll post some more pictures. But right now, the progress that's being made, I mean, it looks different, but it's not extremely different. So I can't wait until the inside starts getting put together, but it is looking great. I can't wait for it to be done. Okay, so I really like that orange a lot better than that first one, but the first one was good for a first coat. So that's looking good. I'm gonna wash my brush. Okay, I'm trying to peek up at the comments. If you're watching now, or even if you're just popping on just to see what's going on, just say hey. I like to know where you're watching from, who's watching, where are you watching from. And if you have any questions or comments, I will be looking at those later and answering those later. So, okay, so I'm gonna let this dry a little bit. So while I'm doing that, I'm going to start working on another little section. So I'm gonna paint the stems, and now I'm using my smaller brush and some brown, and I guess I'll start up here. I'm going to make a stem that starts wide and gets a little smaller here. Now remember what we talked about earlier. When you're painting on glass, it's so different than painting on canvas or wood or even ceramic, because glass is not porous, so the paint doesn't dry very fast, and it doesn't move. It moves a lot. If I push down too hard with the brush, it's going to actually scoop some of it off. So I don't really want that. So you want to use a light touch. I'm going to make this stem kind of curl over here a little bit. Okay, and then I'm going to do this one here. So I start off wider and then get a little narrower. Because of the way I put this top pumpkin, I don't have a ton of space over here. So I'm gonna be a little bit fussy about the direction of this because I need it to kind of fit in the space I gave myself. So I'm making the stem go that way, and it's taking a really sharp angle there. I am not pushing down hard with my brush at all, because see what happens if I push down too hard, it actually takes away some paint. I'm being really careful not to push too hard. All right, we're gonna add more to this later, but for right now, that's the stem I have. I'll come back to it. I'm gonna work down here. So I start off just figuring out my shape, and then I'll go back in and fill it in. Really light touch, just so that you don't remove your paint. All right, so far I like the way those go. The paint's a little thick, so I'm gonna let that dry while I work on something else. All right, I'm gonna grab my bigger brush again, and I'm gonna get a little bit of yellow on my brush. Now I'm gonna come back to these pumpkins down here, and I wanna add some yellow towards the top to give a highlight to the top of my pumpkin. Now, if I feel like I need to blend this, which I kind of think I need to blend it a little bit in the middle there, I'm gonna grab a little tiny bit of orange and just use that to blend right here. But I don't mind, and I kind of like that there's some yellow, like pure yellow streaks up in here. And like I was talking about, it's really important to make your brush strokes just follow the contour of what you're painting. So I'm not going to paint across, and I'm not going to paint straight up and down. I am using this kind of curved motion to what I'm doing here. Okay, so I'm going to leave that one like that, and I'm going to come up here and do this one here. And then if I get too much on my brush, I'm just going to wipe it on a paper towel. Grab a little bit of orange there and pull down some of that yellow. But I really particularly like when the yellow's bright. So you have these like really extreme highlights. That's a little too much. All right, we're gonna get rid of some of that. That's better. Grab a little orange, blend that in. And then I'll grab a little yellow and give myself some highlights at this top one. And then I'll grab some orange and just blend a little bit away. Just so it's not such a harsh contrast where the yellow changes to the orange. I just kind of want it to blend a little bit. But at the top, I want it to be pretty drastically different. Okay, so then I'm going to clean that brush off. And I'll take my small brush again with a tiny bit of brown on it, just a little. I kind of roll my brush in the paint and get it right on the tip. And what I want to do is I want to pull some of this brown just slightly down into the pumpkin where those sections are different. So I'm kind of using the brown to give it a shadow a little bit where those where that middle section is. I don't want these lines to be really thick, and it's actually better if they skip a little bit and they're not super solid. I'm gonna go around my outside here too and just give it a little outline. So I'm not outlining this where this is like a perfect outline and it's so thick. I don't want it to look like it's super cartoony. I just want it to have a slight little bit of shadow there. And then I'm going to do the same thing to the other two. So I want to make sure I don't push down hard. Keep just the tip of the brush touching. Don't push down really hard with your hand, because then you'll get a thick line. Just a little bit. Sometimes I'm not even doing anything, but that's okay because your hand's moving in the direction you want it to be. So when you do touch down, you have your line going in the right direction. I don't know if that makes any sense. I just don't want to push down extra hard. So sometimes I'm overcompensating so much that I actually don't touch the bottle, but my hand is moving in the direction that I want it to. So when it does touch the bottle, when I do push down enough and it touches the bottle, the line is going in the right direction. Okay, so see how that just gives it a little shadow and starts to define the shape a bit more. I'm gonna do it a little darker here on this big one. Okay, so things are starting to come along. All right, so now I'm gonna take, let's see, what am I gonna do? Usually I make the vines green, but I kind of started with the brown. I think I'll take my dark green and my small brush, and I'll start at the vine, at the top of the stem rather, and then kind of start making a vine with it. Now, when I make the curlicues, I don't go like this all in one motion. I will stop and then come from the other direction and then hook them together. That way your curlicue comes out nicer. I'm gonna add a little brown to this later, but right now we're just gonna leave it like that. And I think what I'm gonna do too is come off here with a leaf. And the leaves are just little eye shapes, or like almost like a football kinda. And I'm gonna do another one right here. I don't want to do just one, so we'll do two. I'll probably come back and add some more in a few minutes. All right, now let's think about this one right here. So I already started heading in this direction. So I guess I better continue that. Maybe I'll stop it there and make the second vine come this way. Yeah, I like that better, because this one wasn't going in a good direction. It was going to twirl into that. Now I could do that and have it overlap the pumpkin, but I don't want to do that right now. I'm just trying to create some vines where I'm taking up some space. Okay, now this one here, same thing. This one kind of is heading in a direction I don't really want to go. So I'll make that one be a short vine, and I'll make this one, I'll have this one come off this way. Okay, and now I'm feeling like something's missing over here. There's a lot of green on this side and only a little bit on that side. So I'm just gonna take some liberties here, and I'm just gonna throw a vine in. It's coming from nowhere. Kind of. Okay, that feels better. It's more balanced. Now I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna add some leaves, and they don't necessarily have to come off of the vine directly. I'm just gonna put them near the vine. So see, that one's not, they're not touching the vine, it's just kind of near it. These over here I made touching, and I'm kind of feeling like I shouldn't have done that. So you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna do something in a minute. I'll show you how to get rid of mistakes. So for those of you just joining, I'm working on a sample for a paint night I have coming up for a church women's group, and I don't have a pumpkin sample, so I wanted to give them some options of designs. We're going to be doing these wine bottles. So I wanted to paint a pumpkin sample. So I thought you might like to watch how I do it. If you have any questions, make sure you put them in the comments. I'm happy to answer any questions. Okay, so I like to do like 2 leaves. Now I like how that looks so much better, not touching the vine like those are touching the vine, so I'm gonna get rid of those other ones. I am going to take, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna take, I gotta get some alcohol. I'll be right back. So I have some rubbing alcohol and these little cotton pads, and I'm just gonna take some of the rubbing alcohol and I am going to wipe away those 2 leaves. You gotta find a clean spot on the pad for the second wipe because otherwise you'll smear the green. There. Now they're gone. Now I can do what I want. So I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna add some leaves, but I'm not gonna make them touch the vine. There, that's a little better. All right, now I'm gonna take a little bit of the brown on my brush with the green, and I'm just gonna pull some brown into the vine, not all the way, just at the spot where the vine meets the stem. That way there's a little bit of a transition from brown to green. Okay, so I kind of like that. All right, now I'm gonna go in and take some of my, sometimes I like to go in and add a second coat of dark green to the leaves. So maybe I'll go back to the beginning and add just a quick little second coat. And then I'm gonna add a little light green to give it a highlight. Using a light touch. I'm trying to use the tip of my brush. Oops, I'm gonna move that. I'm trying to use the point of my brush to start the leaf, and then as I get closer to the middle part where I need it to be wider, you can push down a little bit more, and then over here where you want the tip of the leaf to be pointy again, just be careful. Either change the direction of how you're holding the brush or lighten back up again. Sometimes if my point of the other end of the leaf isn't so great, I'll turn the brush around and fix it. Like right there, I don't really love that, so I'm gonna just fix it. There we go. Okay, now I'm gonna just wipe my brush on my paper towel and then grab some light green, and I'm just gonna go in and add just a little highlight stroke to each leaf, and I want my highlight strokes to go in the contour in the direction of my leaf. Don't overthink it. This is not a perfect little stroke, it's just adding a little highlight. Okay, rinse that off. All right, now I am gonna grab some white, a little bit of white on my brush, and I like to go in and add just a tiny bit of white highlight to each pumpkin. This is a really little bit of white. And you can do that same thing to your stems. Add a little highlight stroke to your stems. All right, you can do that to your leaves too. The white makes a huge difference because it adds a nice little emphasis. So it just draws your attention there. Just adding a tiny bit of white to each leaf. There we go. All right, another thing that is really cute, I love to do this, is add little dots. So I take the back end of my small paintbrush and I get a nice little dollop of paint on my brush. And I like to do little clusters of 3. And I just put them in places that, I don't know, I just find little places that look like they could use something. Right, and maybe down here. And then over here, I think I'll put one like in that little nook that the vine makes. Let's see, maybe we'll do one down in here. That's cute. And then maybe over here. Okay. All right, last but not least, I'm gonna make sure that my bottle doesn't roll away on me. I'm trying to hold it in a way that you guys can see it. I like to take some gold. Again, this is enamel glass paint, but it is metallic gold. So I'm gonna take a little bit of that. And I like to take a little gold and do some highlight strokes with gold, whether it's in the leaf, and I'm kind of going right on top of. Now, things should be kind of dry, so you wouldn't want to do this on top of your green if it was really wet, but it's starting to get dry now. I'm just going kind of alongside the white, but I'm not really worrying too much about where it ends up being. Put a little stroke of gold on each leaf. And I can go in and add a little stroke of gold inside the pumpkins too. That's always nice. And if you felt like you needed a few more of those little dots here and there, you could do them with gold instead of white. So maybe I will put one right here. And maybe I'll do one, I'm gonna do one for each pumpkin just to make it consistent. And then maybe I'll do one right here. There we go. All right, so I really like the way that came out. Hold on one second. I'm gonna just do a quick little turn around so I can say goodbye. So let's just flip it around. Hello. Okay, so thanks for watching. Here's how it turned out. I'm really happy with the way that turned out, and I hope that my painters at my paint party like it too. Thanks for watching, and if you have any questions, if you're watching the replay, make sure you put them in the comments and I'm happy to answer. Have a great day.